Coming to Panama in the 50s and working here or stationed here until 67 gave me a real natural feel for Panama. And it wasn't just the canal zone, it was the actual wildlife in Panama. Going to the Sobrina, the rainforest, the largest island in the Panama Canal, Barrio Colorado, visiting the 5 principal regions of Panama, you see a different world. If you go to Panama City, all you see is the big city life and a lot of people packed into one location. But when you come to the canal, you think of the 8th wonder of the world. You think of something that man made for man to come and see, for man to go through. And you know, for the last 118 years, man has been doing just that. There is nothing like the idea of the canal. Remember, there's canals all around the world. The locks are 17 times larger than the locks in other canals. The Chinese might have a 1,000-mile long Grand Canal, and the Suez, that's 105 miles. But there's nothing quite like the 48 miles of the Panama Canal. You know, when you enter Panama, it's Ripley's Believe It or Not. You don't enter from the east going to the west. You enter from the northwest going to the southeast. Right. It's a double S, and you can actually see the sun coming up over the Pacific and setting over the Atlantic. It's in Ripley's Believe It or Not, but where we go in is 27 miles west of where we would go out if we were near Panama City. People do not understand that when they designed the canal, the French wanted to build a Suez Canal, a sea level canal. You don't dig in shale and clay and rocks like you do the sand of the Suez. Here you have to go through the different levels. When Columbus paddled up that river in 1502, he actually made it within 12 miles of the Pacific Ocean. But no one saw the future until 1534, when Charles V of Spain actually proposed joining the 2 largest bodies of water with a waterway, a pathway to the seas. It is an unbelievable object from space. The green and red navigation lights go 6 miles up the seaway that everyone will see at 5 to 6 a.m. in the morning. Then the 3 steps of Gatun, they're kind of like this tie. They're 3 giant plateaus that are more than a mile long. You know, it's like an old movie. They built these blocks out of cement using metal formations and poured wet cement in, 36 feet long, 12 feet wide, 12 feet high. There was no tie irons, there was no metal reinforcements. It was an old Cecil DeMille movie, building the pyramids in Egypt. Well, folks, 5 pyramids would equal 1 lock of the Panama Canal. The 8th wonder of the world is the simplest. It's all done by gravity. Water is the one element that's needed for the future. As every ship goes through the canal, it uses 52 million gallons of fresh water. Now last year, in 2011, 14,431 ships went through the canal. Each one used 52 million gallons of fresh water. That's 61% of all the fresh water in Panama. Now the problem for the future, they say, is going to be recycling the water for the new expanded locks, because they're going to be a lot bigger than the current locks. In its simplest form, it's the smoothest operation you've ever seen. For all of these years, more than 100, the water comes down 2 giant 18-foot railroad tunnels that are 60 feet below the ground, brings the water down into the locks, and pushes it into 70 culverts. This ship will go up in 13 minutes, 26 feet. That's the size of the whole lock. You won't feel a thing. We're tethered by 8 electronic mules around the ship. These are actually locomotives that have 40,000 horses apiece. A lot of people think they are the actual engine that pulls us through. The captain, the staff captain, and the master are up on the bridge, and they use the thrusters on the bottom of the Island Princess to easily maneuver the canal. They could go through the entire canal without a single tug or any effort. When you look at the 3 steps of Gatun tomorrow morning, you're going to see what Charles Lindbergh, when he was a 10-year-old boy, came and witnessed. And then years later, he would fly across the Atlantic. And then years later, in 1938, he would go to Germany to fly with Hermann Göring and the Luftwaffe. And Göring insisted on taking him to meet Hitler. And Hitler asked Lindbergh, "What's the greatest thing that you've ever seen and done?" Expecting him to say the transatlantic flight, Lindbergh, straight-faced, said, "The steps of Gatun." He remembered them as a child, but everyone that goes there today, tomorrow, and in the future will remember the pride, the achievement, the perseverance, things that put this over the top. It's amazing, though, the size. People take it for granted. Do you realize we could put 3 Titanics in each of the locks? Or we could put 2 Eiffel Towers in each of the locks? Or we could put 4 space shuttles in each of the locks? Or we could put 500 big yellow school buses in each of the locks? Each of the locks is not 1 football field long, it's 3 football fields long. But it is something that people made for people to use. And all around the world, it's becoming a symbol of trade.